How we doing, man?
What is up, brother?
Hey! Long time no see. Hey,
Dude,
everybody, welcome back.
I already missed seeing
Go
your
ahead.
beautiful face, dude.
I know it's so long since I've actually seen you in person. It was really nice to meet up last episode. It was pretty sweet. So we'll have to do
Right?
that more often.
Yeah, dude. As soon as these gas prices come down.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I filled up the other day, and I was like, oh, okay. I felt like they bent me over, man. I felt like that nozzle didn't go in my tank. If you get what I'm saying.
Stick it in, no spit.
Yeah, for real, dude. It's crazy. I went to Costco today. I tell you, that was a mistake. We literally went there for a thing of milk and toilet paper, which I don't know why we decided to go to Costco for that, but we did. And like $187 later, um, we were like, holy crap, we have no willpower.
Bro, just thank God you didn't get any eggs. You'd have to take a mortgage out on the house.
Dude, I'd have to sell my guns. I mean, I'd never do that. Oh man, I never thought that eggs would be a sign of wealth.
Dude, anyway, welcome back. Mid-tier talks with mid-tier guys. As you can afford anything.
Welcome back, everybody. This is, I believe, episode 7. Before we get started, I just want to throw a quick shout out to you guys, our listeners. You guys are awesome. Me and Mike track the analytics to kind of see how we're growing with this. This kind of started out as just a way for us to vent some extra stuff and kind of reconnect after being separated for a while here. You guys are awesome. I'm truly blessed to see how quickly this thing is growing and how fast this thing is spreading. I've got great feedback from some of you guys that have interacted with us on Instagram. Awesome stuff. It's good to see how quickly you guys have grown this podcast and how quickly you guys are being so receptive to it. Positive feedback. You guys are awesome. I just really want to throw a big shout out to you guys.
Dude, absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Honestly, I'd still be talking every Sunday with you or Saturday with you anyway. So
Yeah.
this is nice that other people want to hear just a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I will say, honestly, at this point, I kind of just anticipated it to be like, that 5 or 6 people we knew. We're on our way. We're over 100 listeners. We're closer to 200 than we are to 100. And heck, our analytics say we even have 2% of our listeners in Australia. So whoever you are in Australia, good day, mate. Not to be offensive.
I don't want to end up like your country. So if you want to hit me up and tell me how cucked you guys are over there with gun rights and everything like that, feel free to reach out. I'm going to laugh at you. But I will. I truly feel bad for you. And if you ever want to come over here and shoot some guns, let me know.
And if you're not actually in Australia and you're just using a VPN, I'm not going to plug you. So I'm just kidding.
I'm not gonna...
I don't know why you would do that. Anyway, so moving forward. So SHOT Show, huge part of the gun industry. Many of us, I'm pretty sure everyone listening to this knows what SHOT Show is. For those that don't, basically the Comic-Con of guns. It is a giant expo. Everyone and their brother is demonstrating all of the cool stuff, gun related in any aspect that they have produced or going to produce. Go ahead.
But caveat to that, but SHOT Show is kind of like car concepts. So a lot of stuff that they bring to SHOT Show never ends up hitting the floor.
ACR.
Yeah, right. Or the Magpul motorcycle.
Or like, what is it? What's that lunchbox Glock they came out with years ago?
I wanted that so bad.
Somebody, I don't remember who. I think Magpul maybe is taking it. I don't know. Somebody I heard is officially making it.
I wanted to. It's only been a decade. Is it the version that was a flashlight and then you push the button, like it's a normal flashlight, and then you push the button and it folds out?
Like if you're the only thing that I had about that when he said it was a flashlight is like, yeah, if you're like a 1950s miner, then that makes sense to be a flashlight.
Just a huge chunk.
Yeah, or like those yellow camping ones, that take like the car battery.
Dude, my grandma is so offended with you right now because that's the one she takes on walks with her. I even stopped her the other day. I was like, she's like going on a walk and she's carrying this fucking lunchbox flashlight. And I'm like, Grandma, are you planning on walking all the way through the night? Like, where are you going?
She's gonna bring down planes with that. But yeah, so SHOT Show is really cool because you get to see some really cool concepts. It's also super disappointing
Because you did all this great stuff, all this amazing ideas that never end up happening, and you just get super
Yeah.
disappointed.
Or a company that goes out of business, or
Yeah.
something happens. I mean, like Barrett recently, right, was purchased by a Australian company, right? So
Interesting.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, so it really makes me wonder, if they're going to have the same commitment to 2A Second Amendment stuff as they did before, knowing the history of Australia. And it's like, man, that's sad because like one of the coolest manufacturers. I mean, like who doesn't want a semi-auto 50 cal, right?
So I actually have some background knowledge on Barrett because we were just doing some pick knowledge about Barrett and the company and how it started and the
Yeah,
person. So Barrett was a photographer that was
really.
literally photographing. Yeah, he was taking pictures and stuff of the military boats coming in and out. He saw one of the big guns and he said, "Hey, I want to shoot that." Like as a standalone firearm, and then he ended up getting investors, and it was like a longer story, but he started as a photographer and ended up building the most popular semi-auto anti-tank weapon ever invented.
I mean, yeah, the Barrett 50 cal, whichever variant you're talking about, is arguably one of the most iconic and easily recognizable rifle platforms in the world. Every video game, every movie, anything
TV
that's got,
show, yeah.
yeah, anything that's got an action star in it, anything where they want to have like, I'm a super badass sniper, or any video game, it's a staple to it. Everyone knows what it is. And so it is curious to see these kind of developments in the industry and wonder like how is this going to affect the future.
And
It's also
it makes me love the American gun industry that much more.
yeah,
I mean, as a photographer to that.
yeah, it is pretty interesting too to see how some of these people get their start into firearms. And honestly, a lot of it is just somebody who decided I can do better. Went to like Accuracy International. Accuracy International is one of my favorite startup stories. So literally, it was three guys in a garage made a sniper rifle and submitted it to the UK during their sniper rifle weapon trials. And these guys are going up against HK, against well-known British manufacturers, Australian manufacturers, other American manufacturers, right? They bring it out there, and it's the L96A1, I believe, is what it is, right? And the Brits love it, right? They shoot it. They're like, this thing is great. They're like, you know what? Tell you what, though, we're going to send a guy out there. We want 10,000 of these. And these dudes were just doing this on a whim. And they're like, oh, crap. They want 10,000 of these. And they're like, yeah, we're going to send a guy out to your shop and basically just make sure that, you know, you're not just three dudes in a garage. And it was kind of like that, like that looks at each other panically kind of thing. And no joke, they fly home, they take a couple $1,000s, they rent out a warehouse, and they take like the handful of rifles that they have and just distribute them in different stages of manufacturing around their shop, and then hire a bunch of people to stand around and look like they work there for like the 2 days that the inspectors come out.
I just want to make sure you guys aren't three raccoons in an overcoat.
Yeah, for real. Like, are you two kids trying to buy a ticket to an R-rated movie? And now they're like a huge defense contractor.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was.
Oh,
It's like that's awesome.
speaking about defense contractors, shout out Magpool, dude. They just won the government contract.
Oh, sweet. Now we can watch everything go up in price.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Magpool mags are about to be $30 a pop now.
yeah. Oh man. Yeah. There's a blessing and a curse there. Um, but yeah. So going on a shot show, some of the things I thought were pretty cool coming out of that, kind of my hot or not. Um, I was a really big fan of the Hollow Sun's new optic that everyone's chatting about. I'm
The
really curious to
thermal
see.
optic, bro. Thermal. So
Yes.
like,
So it's like a red dot overlay onto an IR infrared screen, and I think they had night vision and two types of IR that you could do. And one was like just a standard IR, and was a really high def IR. And we're talking sub $1,000. And my first thought was like, sick. All that stuff we left the Taliban made its way to China, and it's finally paying off.
yeah, right. Now they're gonna sell it to the citizens.
So now I'm waiting for my $600 nods. But yeah, I think the cool thing for me, I think about it is like one, it's under $1,000, so I'm curious to see how well it holds up. I know Hollow Sun, like as much people give it crap, like Hollow Sun, at least in my experience, has held up pretty well. It's actually served to be pretty solid.
Dude,
Um,
All of my Holliston products are amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you remember that guy at the gun shop who had a hollow sun on his built Glock,
Yeah,
and he would like drop it on it repeatedly, purposely to bang it, like solar panels hanging on by a thread, glasses cracked, still works.
dude,
Yeah,
and he's the one that went through 2 Trigies.
yeah, he did. Yeah. So that, I mean, that's the thing too, is I'm curious to see how well it works. I think it'll be a cool option. I think it'll be a very good option for those of us that want to get into night vision. We don't have the money to drop on, a $4,000 setup with Nod's helmet and all the gadgets and everything, but can it come up with $800 to drop on an optic on a rifle? Is it perfect? No. Is it the best solution? No, but it's one solution. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that develops. That's on my hot list. Um, Another cool thing I thought, I can't remember the number system for it, but it's like Beretta's new shotgun they came out with. It's basically like the 1301, but less expensive.
Yeah, I
Uh,
saw that, dude.
yeah, pretty sick. I'm a big fan of the 1301. So this one was pretty dope. What about you,
And
man? What you got? Did you have any like real like, oh, sick?
so I'll be honest with you, the shot show was kind of disappointing for me. I mean, the Holocene was pretty sick. There wasn't a lot of really good original ideas this year. I didn't think.
Yeah.
Did you saw Spirit System was showing off their new pack, their new pouch and everything like that. It's like a butt pouch, a big old Vietnam butt pouch, basically.
See, I love how, yeah, yes, and I just have to say this. I love how things go in a cycle, right? Because I've had a butt pack on my belt kit for years, and everyone's like, "Oh, what are you gonna do with the butt pack? Oh, walking around a butt pack, blah 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 blah." Spiritus comes out with it. Instagram, all for like a whole week, is like, "Bro, I just got a new butt pack. Check out my butt pack. Look at my jungle kit. Oh, I
Dude, it's
made
just
modern
Vietnam.
Alex kit."
It's
And
just Vietnam.
I was like, dude, like for real though, like we go from like we look at rifle optics, we go from carry handles to as low as possible to like a 193 to we're just back to carry handles. We go from belt kit to just the belt to plate carrier to ditch the plate carrier, go to a chest rig to never mind, forget all of that and do a jungle kit back to Alice gear, but modern. And
Yep.
it's like, and I'm just sitting here shaking my head, being like, dude, I need a bigger Instagram following because I've been doing this before it was cool.
See? Okay, you're gonna be that guy. It's like I was cool before it was cool.
I'm just saying, like, I was just poor, so that was my solution.
Now your rig's gonna be $1,000, dude.
Apparently, being poor is the way to set the trend in the gun community.
um, so it wasn't super blown away. Holliston, obviously, I want it. It's so dope. Even though I want to run nods and all that shit, I still want it. It's fucking sick. So it bridges the gap, not between a lot of people that are like, oh, I can't afford to get into nods, to okay, I have nods, but I can't run nods and thermal.
Yeah.
So now it bridges that gap between I have thermal and nods now. So it's if you have money, you can afford all that shit. Now you're just bridging more gaps. I know some people that were running thermal on one side, night vision on the other side, and there was debates about headaches. There's debates about
See,
pricing, like
that seems
that.
like a quick way to become autistic. Like,
No, it's actually a super solid way to run your nods.
I mean, it just seems to me like if you're seeing white on black on one, and then if you run, I don't know, it just seems like
You
the
can get
contrast
you
colors
can
would
get
be
so
easy.
so what you don't run the white on black. You can run the white on black or the lightly blued. You
Mm-hmm.
just don't run the green night vision. So run like a bluer or a gray hue night vision, and then it'll match with the thermal. So it's not
Mm.
super far off contrast.
Yeah, I was gonna say to me, like I'm just imagining in my head like that, like orange is hot, blue is cold in one eye, and
Yeah.
then you've got like the green on the other eye, and your brain is just retarded at this point.
No, so it's like gray thermal
Yeah,
on one side, and then a blue or a gray night vision on the other side.
it makes sense.
But I mean, then you're doing the whole closing one eye, opening the other eye kind of deal, trying to see what you're trying to see because you can't run both the same. If you stare out at 100 yards with both eyes open, it's gonna mesh together. Like it's gonna be weird. So
So
you have
as
to
we're
like,
talking,
what was that?
as we're talking about optics, I'll let you finish real quick first because I've got something to say about optics.
Oh yeah. So um, it bridged the gaps. Another thing at Shot Show I was kind of looking at was like the ATF stand, but that's a whole other story. Not a
Yeah.
lot of crazy stuff this year.
Yeah. So one of the things I thought to me was, and this is going to definitely for sure get us not sponsored by SIG.
They didn't even show up, dude.
Okay. So they showed up with their MHS optic. So for the SIG M17, they showed up with an optic for it, and they were like, and again, this just goes to show that everything's made in the same freaking factory, right? It looked exactly like a tan Holosun like 507 or whichever one it is, the Holosun that's the knockoff Aimpoint box, the Aimpoint macro micro. You know what I'm talking about?
509.
Is it the 509, the one that's like
Yeah.
the mailbox of death, but for the pistol?
Yeah, I have it. It's the 509T.
Yeah. So it looked exactly like that, but tan. And the dude who makes it gets up there, and James Reeves from TFB's talking to him. He's like, "Hey man, so like you saying this is pretty solid, pretty reliable?" He's like, "This is single-handedly the best, most indestructible optic ever made by humans." And I was like, "What?"
Acro, just like
I
what
was
the
like,
fuck?
"This man has got some balls," you know. I was like, there's no humility there. I was like, man, I get like standing behind your product, but dude, that is a bold claim. You know,
No, it's
that is a
BS.
very strong
It's
claim.
it's BS, dude.
100%. And that's the thing that got me was like the fact that like you couldn't even be like, oh yeah, it's pretty solid, or like, oh, like give me some sign. This is the best ever made by humans.
You're gonna sit there and tell me that the Acro is not gonna beat it. The
Well, I
Acro
mean,
is
yeah,
so
like I'm sitting here like I don't know about that, man. That's a pretty strong claim.
And if you want to call us out, send us those optics, and I'll torture test them right now.
100%. I will quit everything and shill your product all day long if you can prove me wrong. Um, but secretly gets sponsored by SIG. It worked.
Dude, MCX is a solid platform.
That's
Best 300 blackout platform ever.
that's our new strategy is we just trash talk SIG every episode until someone notices and we get sponsored by SIG. And then it's like all of a sudden we're just like the MCX is the single best rifle platform ever developed by man.
Ever created by mankind.
I've sold all of my guns to buy a 320.
Dude, and it's pretty
Like,
ridiculous too with them winning all these government contracts and shit like that.
okay.
And it's yeah.
Speaking of bad marketing, as much as I like Alien Gear as a company, their marketing department on my Instagram sucked. So they were describing their new holster, which is basically like their version of the ELS, right?
Yeah.
So where it's take one off, take one on, right? Real easy. But they show a guy drop leg carrying a P365. And I'm like, of all the guns you could have chose, man, you picked literally the smallest weapon on the market.
Maybe there was some sort of analytic. They're like, it's such a popular gun or something. I don't know.
I'm like, if there's one gun I'm not open carrying on a drop leg, it's that one.
Dude, Alien Gear. I don't. You know what? I've never. I'll be honest here. I've never been a huge fan of Alien Gear. It's kind of like, it's kind of corny to me, like their whole brand, and then also like their products. I'm not a huge, massive fan of.
I like them as a company because they're semi-local. I like that they're willing to work with you, and I've known people who've literally walked in there and been like, "Hey, I have an obscure gun," and they're like, "We'll make a mold for it right now."
Yeah.
So like I kind of like that as the company side of it. I'm not a big fan of their products. I've had some of their stuff in the past. Some of their stuff's okay. Some of it's kind of gimmicky. But it was just like, man, you are not trying hard.
Their stuff just feels cringy.
Speaking of cringy, I am really tired of like, okay, I understand gun companies have to stay in the game to continue to make money, but I kind of wish they would just take a strong stance and instead of trying to like cuck their products to always be compliant, they would just be like, put that kind of money that they put into R&D into fighting for the gun rights. Because I'm tired of seeing some bullshit like lever action ARs.
Dude, Okay, so the new lever action AR that came out, I forgot what company dropped it. So the
Yeah.
thing about it is that it's advertised as like an attachment you throw on there, you're good to go, lever action AR from here on out. But so the way that it works is you have to flip the gas block around in order to make it
Oh,
function properly because it has to be a single shot rotation.
interesting. So it's
So
not just throw any upper on there. It's yeah, you can do that, but you're gonna need to do some work.
it won't work until you flip your gas block. So it's kind of like
Interesting.
they advertise it as this and like super easy to do, no problems kind of thing, but you basically have to dedicate the upper to it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because I remember watching and they were talking about just the lowers being available at first. And I was like, oh man, that would be like maybe for like Californians or something like that, or like some in a state where you're like, man, my AR, it's getting kind of hard. I get the appeal to it, but I just wish that like companies instead of developing that product would, put their money towards fighting to keep those guns legal. But
Yeah.
yeah, that one, and then POF they put out the Tombstone, and that was like their lever action 9 mil. I don't know if they're Scorpion mags. They look like Scorpion mags.
It
Um,
a lot of people love it. I think it's gay.
yeah, I think it's dumb. I think it's really dumb. I think it's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. And the funny thing is, I don't know if you follow him, but there is a Instagram page called PS90 King. I think it's PS90s King, and he does like cursed gun images like on like Photoshop, and he made one of those like as a joke like a year or two ago, and it came out, and everyone was like, oh,
What
like
is that?
everyone was tagging him in it. Like, dude, I go on to the announcement, and it's just like 50 tags of adding him. You know, I was like, bro should sue him for copyright, but
Lever action CZ Scorpion.
I mean, I bet you it probably suppresses really, really quietly because lever guns, in my experience, suppress super well because there's no gas, like it's not
Yeah.
there's no system, right? But it's super dumb.
It's so dumb.
It's the
It's,
gayest version of a cowboy gun.
it's just I don't. If you like classics, stick with classics. Don't merge them into modern because it looks
Yeah,
dumb. I don't like it. It's not functionally better in any form or fashion.
yeah, and that's like so Henry they put out I think they're calling it like the camp rifle or the ranch rifle, something like that, and it's basically their take of a Ruger PC carbine
Yeah,
but it takes Glock mags and it's all Henry furniture. And the audacity of this man to come out there and be like, yeah, this nice, super solid, whatever type of wood and all this stuff, and the Henry name behind it for the low price of 1049. I was like, 1049, dude. I could buy two PC chargers for that.
bro.
Like I
The,
could buy two
the amount
Rugers.
of futtery, the amount of futtery that went into that, dude. I
Yeah.
just that's why I find it so dumb. Maybe it's just me being a modern day FUD. Maybe I'm turning into a FUD. I'm like, don't miss my modern Glock. Like
I
do
know.
it
I
for the memes.
I
I
think
get
what it is they're bridging that gap with the FUDs. They're like,
yeah.
no, buy our modern product. We need you.
Be NRA, NRA.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, one thing I am excited about, just because I'm kind of just a total nerd for rolling blocks. I mean, not rolling block, but uh, what am I thinking? Roller delayed blowback guns.
Yeah.
Um, PTR and Zenith are bringing in their version of HK93s, which is the 5.56 version of the G3.
Yeah. Yeah. Big
And
MP5s. That's all I know. They're all big MP5s.
yes, and I want one so freaking bad, dude. I saw the commercials for that. I mean, I saw the little YouTube video and I was like, shut up and take my left nut. Like, I will, in a heartbeat. Like,
Imported Dragonovs, bro.
dude, yes, yes, yes. Dude, I saw that too. And I was like, dude, this is sick. And it's funny because it's like they're getting ready to import all this cool stuff. And then the ATF is like, nah.
But I mean, did you see BNT's announcement?
You have to be a little more specific.
So I watched this. Lucas Botkin shared on a story. I read it up. It was a BNT announcement saying, "Hey, since the ATF is now saying that braces are illegal, and that's the part that makes your weapon, importable." And the ATF is claiming that no one is going to have to destroy their current pistol setups. No one's going to have to destroy their BNTs, things like that. They're working alongside the ATF and other industries very closely. This and that and that and that. And every single comment in the fucking thing was just, why are you working with the feds? Stop working with the feds. They're trying to ban your stuff. And everyone's like calling them out. And they're like, if you truly wanted to support your company, stop all government contracts, stop all like military contracts, all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is that like regardless of the company, there are very, very few, right? Very few. I'm not going to say there's not any, but there are very few that are actually as pro gun as they say they are.
Yeah,
You know,
100%. It's
and they're all playing this game. They're all trying to get contracts with police departments, with government, with whoever, because I think they all see the writing on the wall. And instead of being like, "Hey, we could probably put our collective money into this and outbuy politicians, buy our own politicians, and get this stuff to never go through," they're just going, "Let's get the getting while the getting's good and focus on military and law enforcement contracts."
yeah, and let everyone else die, basically. Let
Yeah,
everyone else themselves.
it's because that's what HK does. I mean, that's why everything's so expensive and it never gets imported, is because they have a bajillion military contracts with everyone. And so they don't care. You're an afterthought. You get the extras. You get the cosmetic blemishes.
Yeah, you get the cucked nasty versions.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, you want to you want a UMP? Here's one that takes 10 rounds, wrong magwell, and a 16-inch barrel and a fixed stock. That'll be $3,000, please. Oh, you want to convert it? Send it to Tommy Built Tactical so you can pay another $3,000."
Dude, it's so strange. The HK is such a weird gun company that people are so obsessed about that I just don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, everyone like a couple years back, they're like, "Oh, we're releasing something cool." Everyone's like, "Oh, is it going to be like a civilian legal G36?" And they're like, "Even better, SL8."
Even better.
Yeah, man. That Shot Show is interesting because you get to see a lot of cool stuff. I get to see a lot of cool concepts. Um, Never fails that there's going to be stuff that every company is going to be like, "Oh yeah, this is coming out. It's going to be released fourth quarter. We're going to get it out there, man. You guys are going to be able to buy it like late 2023, early 2024. Here's the MSRP." And it's like 6 years later, and you're like, "Where gun?"
Where at? I
I
want.
like I pre-ordered 6 years ago. Can I please have my money?
Can I at least have my money back? No.
Yeah, that's a big no, bud. Um, so speaking of which, actually, I was watching. I think it's Odinworks. Yeah, Odinworks. They spun it up in like less than a couple days. It was like 3 or 4 days out from Shot Show, like because when it was right when they dropped the rule about the braces,
Mm-hmm.
they made a thing, and it's literally a buffer tube that just ends in a spike. So, so you have to like stab it into your shoulder, and they're like, technically the ATF definition says it can't have surface area conducive to shouldering. So, get rid of your surface area. How are you going to shoulder it? And I'm just imagining some dude getting a little too hype and just stabbing himself in the shoulder. He just like punches out and then punches back real quick, and the next thing you know, he's like, "It's permanently attached now." I mean, it was a very suggestively built product.
Just thinking about it makes me so angry. I hope this whole thing gets fucking blown out of the water. I don't know.
So I think that'll lead really well into our next topic.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of the ATF and the brace ban, so while me and Mike are big advocates of not partaking in this, um, a lot of us prior to this used an AR pistol, AK pistol, some kind of braced pistol as a good truck gun, right? I know most of us do. Most of us have. It's light. Hey, sorry about that. For those listening, I'm not sure what happened, but it just kicked us off. So
Dude,
we're back here.
Anchor app, I want to like you so much, and you're making it
I
real
know.
hard.
I know. You know what? What it is we were trashing the ATF too hard, and they were like, "Ha, screw these guys."
Our FBI agents canceled it.
They're like, I'm a big, strong man. I'm going to cancel your podcast. Right after my wife's done with Tyrone.
My wife's boyfriend.
Yeah. My wife's looking at me now. We're talking about the ATF, not you. My wife is giving me this dirty look like, what? Yeah, so moving on back to the truck gun thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of us, use some type of braced pistol, some type of AR, AK pistol, MCX, something like that. Because, you got the rifle capabilities in a pistol platform. So whether you choose to comply or not, if you don't want to take that risk of rolling around with an AR pistol in your vehicle, the idea of the truck gun is, I would imagine, probably going to start changing over time if this sticks, right? Especially like people with YouTube, because whether they choose to comply or not, they're going to try to be compliant, at least on YouTube and at least in public, right? So, something to think about as far as truck gun alternatives to these. And, we kind of start going back to what did people use before that? First kind of thing that comes to my mind is things like, AK pistols, right? Yeah. No brace, no buttstock, AK pistol. Obviously, we get where the disadvantages are of that. I know there were methods that people used before with like a single point sling where you just kind of punch out to kind of get some kind of stability. It's not great. I realize that. But yeah, there's options now to look at and think, if you have to replace that, what are you going to replace it with?
You know how disgusted in society I'm going to be if all of a sudden I see a whole bunch of like Dracos and PS90s? I'm going to shit my pants.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's gonna happen, because like when the ATF was coming out and trying to say that like even like the Mossberg shockwaves weren't good to go anymore.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, it's like, okay, well, now you're getting real limited, right?
Yeah.
So to me, I think of those type of things where something like an MP5 or AK pistol, MCX, a rifle caliber platform that an AR 180 that doesn't require the use of a buffer tube, right? And you could use it without a buffer tube. I hate that I have to bring that up in the first place, but again, we're talking about possible alternatives for people that don't want to have that in their vehicle at this point.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see kind of where this will lead to. I think another option, obviously, is a tricked out pistol, right? Glock 34, red dot, flashlight, some kind of carrier with some mags on it, something to give you a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the way I feel about it is a lot of people are already running decked out pistols. I think is dumb as their everyday carries, just because you're putting more faults, you're putting more places of failure in your firearm, especially with something as reliable as a Glock that you already know is going to shoot that 100,000 rounds. You can pull it out and no matter what, it's going to fire, and you start tricking it out. And now, your trigger's not as reliable. This isn't reliable. That, you're adding so many variables. So just like a standard 34, which is a lot of gun. Maybe not for you because you're fucking 6'8", like 300 pounds or 200 pounds of man.
That's a little much. All right.
I'm saying it in the good way. Like I'm talking about like a big burly man, because you're just a massive. You're a mountain of a man, Austin.
So people don't think that I'm literally the mountain. I'm 6'2" and 250. Let's just clear that up here.
No, no, he's not. Someone like next to me. When Austin stands too close to me, I feel like his child. Like he's lying. He's 6'5".
I mean, you can call me daddy. It's whatever.
But I am not a very big man. I am 5'8" and 200 pounds. So carrying a 34 is pretty unrealistic for me.
Well, and when I want to clarify too, when I say tricked out, I don't mean like Gucci gun. I mean Glock 34 MOS slapping on a Trigicon or what your choice of red dot, and a Surefire or a Streamlight. I mean a light and a red dot. I'm not replacing parts. I'm talking just adding to what's already there. But yeah, it's gonna be something to think about. depending on what your state laws are and what you're allowed to roll around with loaded in your vehicle, um, pretty old school, but going back to that 12 gauge shotgun, rolling around in the back seat, or just rolling around with a rifle, period. Maybe if you're in a state where you can't have it loaded, having a magazine somewhere and, the rifle in the back seat or something like that, or something like a Kel-Tec Sub 2000. I think those were like the original like prepper backpack gun. Like I remember when those came out, everyone wanted them, and you couldn't find them anywhere.
Yeah, everywhere, everyone wanted one, especially since it takes Glock mags.
Actually, now that I think about it, this is, you remember that super weird Kel-Tec P50?
Yeah.
Everyone who bought one of those now is just like, it's my time to shine. Like, behold, it's my time.
Who's dumb now?
New conspiracy. All of those guys were behind the brace ban.
Oh, dude.
I can't wait to go on Reddit and start that.
They caused this.
I'll be like, there's too many things in their favor. Goofy gun, no stock exists for it, no brace exists for it, 1 point slings only, made fun of wildly. It's the only solution.
Ban all the rest so we don't look
good. Yeah, but I think it'll be interesting to see if one, I honestly think a lot of people aren't going to change. They're not going to change what their setup is. But for those who do, it will be curious to see what happens. Are we going to see maybe the rise of more takedown style rifles? Like the Kel-Tec Sub 2000, like the I can't remember what it's called, but it's a 9mm carbine where you can flip the barrel 180 degrees backwards, like the FC9 or something like that. Yeah. Or the Blaze or something, the Trail Blaze or something like that. Trail Blaze 9.
I'm also thinking, what's that one AR that you like fold in half? You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I've seen those before. Where basically like
it's a loft holder on one side.
Yeah, it's like a loft holder on the one, and then the barrel comes off, and you could set them together, and you could fit it in like a lunchbox esque size thing. Things like that. I think will be interesting to see how people go about this and how people change things. And that's the interesting thing about the gun industry as a whole is every time we get a restriction, we find a solution. It's just a matter of time. California says, hey, you have to have a fixed magazine or the weapon has to be disassembled to drop the mag. And so they come up with all kinds of, really awesome ways around that.
Yeah.
And they're able to basically, subvert that law in a way. But I think it will be really interesting to see how things change in the future and see what kind of the new pathway is with that. Are we going to see people rolling around with shotguns in the rig? Are they just going to go with a rifle AR and just have it loaded however they got to do it? What new things are going to happen? I remember when I first got real big into like the whole idea of like preparedness, for example, the whole idea of the truck gun was huge. And at the time, this was before the ATF was real big on letting people shoulder the braces. And so a lot of people too, like with truck guns, dude, you saw everything from I got a single shot 410 loaded up in a back seat underneath an umbrella to, belt fed MCR uppers, like wild stuff. Sometimes people would just keep a rifle loaded in their back with like full kit. So, it's going to be interesting to see how things change with this. If we're going to see, especially like with the rise of pistols being more and more common to have red dots and lights, to see if that's going to become more the way that things go. If this is how things stay, are people just going to start carrying a backpack with the Glock 34, or some kind of long slide pistol in it?
Yeah. I'm so many companies like what's that one company that does like all the cool backpacks and shit? I have like 3 of their bags. Vertex. Yeah, Vertex, things like that. They're all going to take a hit, dude, because think about their entire company's built on being able to carry backpack guns and things like that, super concealable ways, when that gun is going to be a very less common thing to see.
Two of the things I thought about too when this brace ban hit was like, certain companies that in my head that I don't know if they're going to survive as a company,
Yeah.
altogether. And the first one that comes to my mind is Flux Defense. So for those that know what Flux Defense is they originally started with a brace setup where basically you could set up this extendable brace that would just pop out to where you could holster the weapon normally, right? But you just pop out this brace, and now all of a sudden you've got a place to put your shoulder and shoot your Glock for extended capability. And then they eventually came out with a it's not a they called it not a foregrip. It was like an angled foregrip deal that held in a spare magazine. So you basically turned your
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you turned your Glock pistol into a PDW. And I know you and I have both messed around with the Recover Tactical one
Mm-hmm.
that had the same type of deal, except it's side folded. And the whole concept was, you're just basically turning your pistol into a PDW. And those two companies were built around that product. And now, like all of their products, if the ATF goes forward with this, are just going to be SBRs, period.
Yep. Yep.
And it's like really becomes cost inhibitive at that point, where you're like, man, I really don't want to do that and pay $200.
Yeah, and you got to get it sent to a NFA capable shop and all sorts of crazy shit, dude.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. What are your thoughts on the truck gun thing?
So my thoughts on the truck gun is it's going back to the old school 70s, 80s, whatever it may be. All the way back in the day, there's always been old Bubba with a 30-06 in his back window of his truck, man. So I don't think truck guns are going anywhere, but I do
Yeah.
think that a lot of companies are going to take massive hits, and there's a lot of really cool companies that just will cease to exist. Anyone with like sort of Flux Raider capability things, if you're not going to be SBRs and dishing them out like crazy, goodbye. You're gone. Vertex, a lot of their shit's going to be gone. Like a lot of stuff that is really cool that a lot of companies are into was the whole readiness and preparedness, especially during the riots and stuff, that are going to cease to exist.
I'm curious to see how many companies will adapt and come out with. I know SIG's got their MCX conversion kit where you can buy an MCX upper that fits on an AR lower.
Yeah.
And basically, it's got a piece that screws into where your buffer tube would go, and it just is a pick rail. So you could put on a pick rail mounted side folder or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see how many different companies are going to basically transition over to something similar, because, like I said, the gun industry always finds a way to adapt, right? California's proof and concept of this, to where they come up with a problem and tons of companies come up with solutions to make California legal guns, to make something, or California legal products. One of the ones that comes to mind was, I can't remember what it's called, but it basically looks like a Magpul mag, and it's spring loaded to where you load it into the chamber, push down, and it loads 9 rounds of the magazine, one in the tube. And it's basically like a stripper clip, right?
Yeah.
And almost, but it looks like a magazine, and it's designed to fit into plate carriers and everything, right? So they come up with solutions. So I'm curious to see what happens. I would imagine, at least in the realm of like truck guns and stuff, you're going to start seeing the people that want to be on the safer side of things running braceless and buffer tubeless pistols with slings, or some type of makeshift. Like there's someone's going to come up with some kind of product that's technically not a stock. Um, like I think I'm laughing because I saw this one earlier today where a guy had a CZ Scorpion, and he had the pick rail back section to it, and he just added a Glock as his stock.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty clever. You know what I mean?
Illegal.
So I'm curious to see what things happen and what changes.
Yeah.
So it'll be
I
interesting
don't
to
know.
see.
I just pray to everything up that's holy right now that this blows over somehow. They sue them enough that something works out. Dude, it's just annoying me. It's annoying me all the way down to my core.
Yeah, I'm just really hoping we don't get to the days to where, you know, uh, like in the early prepper days where people are like, I'm rolling around with a Mosin M44 as my truck gun.
No, because I already know what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a bunch of people rolling around with that cucked ass fucking AR-15 that just has no buffer, like no stock on the end of it. It's just a buffer tube.
Yeah, with like the rubber
Yeah.
cover for it, looks almost like a big condom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how well that goes. I think you're going to see a lot more like MCX style things. I think you're going to see a lot more companies come up with a knockoff of like some kind of piston driven upper. Um, like PSA's got their Jackal, right, which is like their knockoff MCX slash SCAR type operating system.
Yeah.
And so I think you're going to see a lot more companies start transitioning to something like that for the pistol market, like AR 180s, things like that, and conversion kits that'll basically eliminate the stock portion and be like, well, socks to sock, throw a 1 point on it, I guess.
And I wish that we'd all just band together and this would be the thing that we just put our stance in on, man.
Yeah, it would be really nice to see or gun companies, period, really put their money where their mouth is. I think like the biggest one that comes to mind for me that I have the biggest beef with is Springfield Armory. Their whole thing is, defend your legacy. And it's like, yeah, dude, your legacy is giving a ton of money to anti-gun politicians.
Yeah. Or
Like,
I want Daniel Defense to stand up for once, dude. They never will. But...
yeah, I mean that's another thing too. They're a huge company. They make great stuff, and I'm a fan of their product. I'm not a fan of their company at this point
whatsoever at all.
Yeah, I mean, like I love my DDM 4v7. I'm not a big fan of the company and their lack of taking a stance on anything. Like every time Daniel Defense has come out and made a post about anything SHOT Show related, I have turned right around and been like, hey, so when are you going to make a comment about the brace ban?
No. So the thing is, they don't give a shit, dude, because they have government contracts. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is once you get a government funding, once you get government contracts, you no longer care about the consumer. My biggest thing with that too is like that's my biggest worry with SIG is SIG's always been a pretty decent company, and they got really big as far as like in the public eye. I know as us gun guys, we've always known what SIG was, all right. But like your average person who didn't know a whole lot, just wanted to buy a gun, didn't really know what SIG was until they started getting more popular with the military. And I like from the gun shop, people come in, they knew Glock, they knew Smith and Wesson, they knew Ruger, they didn't know SIG, right?
Yeah.
And most of them still thought SIG was German, Mm-hmm. So they picked up in popularity because the military was going with them. Because anything the military does, they have a cult following, right? And people are like, oh, it's good enough for them, good enough for me. Well, then once they get all these contracts, it's like, yeah, so we're just gonna not give these to you, the public, anymore because we got to fill a contract and you get what's left over. I mean, how many times at the gun shop that we worked at, as a SIG elite dealer, right, as a priority recipient of SIGs, would we be sitting there and being like, yeah, I got nothing, dog.
Yeah, I got a 365, dude.
Yeah, I'd be like, you want a 365? I've got like 30 of them.
Not even the good ones, not even the XLs.
If you want literally anything else, nah, dog. Have you tried a Glock 19? But yeah, I think if companies would actually stand up for the rights they claim to, or the right that's giving them their business, it would be a lot better, especially when it's companies for me that like don't have military contracts and yet refuse to stand up.
Yeah.
I mean, like
it just disgusts me because I am not a huge fan of the products of this company, but they're like one of the only companies that stood up and was like, fuck the ATF, was fucking poor people, the poor mafia, what do they call that?
Anderson?
No, Anderson, but it was
Palmetto.
PSA, Palmetto State, yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah, dude. Like I will say this. So Palmetto is actually like, I know we all talk crap about Palmetto because they make cheap ARs and blah, blah, blah. They're starting to come out with some cool stuff though. Like, did you see they're coming out with that STG 44?
Yeah. I don't want to dive too deep into their products, but I just because like this is mostly about the company themselves.
Yeah.
They are the only people that I can think of off the top of my head that truly were like, yeah, stick to the ATF. We don't want to follow these rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is, it's sad when an accessory company is fighting hard for the Second Amendment when they literally just make an accessory for a gun than the actual company that makes the gun that accessory goes on to.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that gets me is it's like all of these companies are just cowing down and bowing down to this and hoping that, everything's going to go great. And it's like, well, you're just going to ride this out while the getting's good. And then eventually the getting's going to get gone.
Yeah, 100%. And before we go too far into this rant, I think we're approaching that hour mark.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell whenever we got to do this in 2 sessions when it cuts us off. Thanks, ATF. But yeah, man, it's been good talking to you again, everybody. This has been episode 7. Thanks for joining us. If you got any thoughts on this, I am curious to kind of see what people think about this truck gun thing. If we're going to go back towards, if anything's going to change, period. Like if you think everything's just going to stay the same, or if you think we are going to see some changing trends if this sticks. I don't think it will. I don't think it's going anywhere. If it does, 5 years from now, what do you think the trend's going to be? Love for you guys to hit us up on the Instagram, kind of let us know your thoughts.
Absolutely. Hit me up always. I'm always down.
So yeah, again, we kind of wanted to go a little more fun on this one since we went a little hard in the paint last time. So this is a little chat with y'all, and thanks for listening. This has been episode 7, and we'll see you next time.
All right, man. I'll see you later.
See ya.